Robin's a language lover, a traveler, an author, a podcaster, and the self-development junkie behind Our Connected World. She's been moving around the world since she was 3 years old. She's lived in 8 countries between Europe and North Africa and traveled extensively over 4 continents. She created Our Connected World as a safe space to uplift and empower women who want to conquer their travel, language, and life dreams. Love it. What a brilliant profile. Yeah. How are you? And you're joining us from Canada today.
I'm joining from Canada, Alberta, actually, Calgary. Recently moved here because, you can't move enough. So went from Ontario to Alberta in July, actually. So yeah, any mountain time zone people in here? Nice to see you all. I see the first little windows. James, Scott, David, Michelle. Hi.
Wonderful, wonderful. Right, let's get going, Robin. Let's get started. If you want to share your screen, we can jump straight in.
Yes, and let's see. Does everybody give a thumbs up if you can see the screen? Okay,
I can see it. Looking great.
All right. So as Luke said, and he already mentioned some of it, my name is Robin, and it's now been 11 years that I've been an expat and 3 years that I've been an immigrant in Canada. So I'm now a permanent resident, which has been quite a journey itself. I have been indeed moving cities since I'm 3 years old. I'm originally from Italy. So at first I was just moving cities within Italy. And I think all of this is what brought me to become a travel, life, and language coach. I'm fluent in 4 languages. I'm hoping English is one of them, and then Italian, Spanish, and German. Thanks, Luke. And this is why I founded Our Connected World. I wanted to help others because I've gained so much. I am where I am today because of languages, because of travel, and I want to help others achieve the same dreams and goals. So I'm an author of course, a bilingual short story collection and called Fantastic Stories. And I'm also a former podcaster. I was interviewing people around the world about their amazing projects and how they were helping others. And the podcast was called Journeys Untold. And in general, I love to dance. I love food. Of course, I'm Italian after all, and I love to write. Okay, today I want to start telling you what I hope you gain from this session. I hope you truly feel inspired and you truly feel ready to take action on what makes you happy, on what you desire for your next chapter. I want you to surf the wave, feel like you can go confidently into the unknown and into your passions, because I'm a strong believer that life is about the journeys we take. And it is about the mindset behind this journey. So the mindset we have, but also the mindset we create to go through every journey and every chapter of our life. And it is about learning and listening. This is how we grow, right? And it is also, and this is, I feel really strongly about it, it is about deciding to speak up when the fire builds in us. What does it mean? It means deciding to take action and change what we want to change in our lives. And you will see the 3 pillars I will kind of chat about are also the 3 pillars of my brand. So they're deep engraved in my heart: slow travel, language learning, and personal growth. So first of all, let's start with slow travel. So slow travel is funny. It's kind of a newer concept within the travel industry. It is connected to slow life movement that generated actually in the 80s in Italy. Slow food, slow lifestyle, slow travel is part of it. So what does it mean? It doesn't mean you have to like go as slow, literally as a sloth while you travel, but it means that you approach traveling differently. Your mindset about traveling is different. And the main thing about slow travel is that it highlights connections. So traveling deeper. And the benefits of having a slow travel approach in your travels is that you get those experiences that are just good for your soul. What does it mean? These experiences where you grow as a person, you learn about other countries, you immerse in other cultures, you get out of your comfort zone, You get that environment, you create that environment where you're able to say yes to new experiences. You're able to detach from the group, from that safety net that you usually have throughout your daily life back home. You create your day when you slow travel. And this is a beauty of, all of us. We are all travel lovers, right? We know that a great thing is the fact that we kind of leave behind all those deadlines, all those bills and busy schedules, and we create our day. We put what we want for our day first. And it's a beautiful bubble of freedom. And with the slow travel mindset, you will leave that country, you will leave that city with a head full of emotionally charged memories and life lessons, not only photographs. So really what it is about, slow travel is about shifting from doing things, right? You're in a new country, in a new city, you do this 1, 2, 3 bucket list, blah, blah, blah. You shift from that to being in the country, being with other people, being in the nature. So very quick tips, because I always like to give something to, to take away in this kind of sessions. How can you slow travel? These are just 5. There's different ways, right? But for example, you can put less stops. If you have little time, especially, right? If you have only a week or 2, maybe putting less stops can help you really staying there, right? Being more present in that city, but at the same time, being flexible. If you schedule everything from A to Z at the minute, you take away from being spontaneous about things, or even changing your itinerary, because sometimes you get to the place and maybe it doesn't feel right, you don't like it as much, so you rather spend those extra 2 days somewhere else. So giving yourself that flexibility to explore. And then wander around. This is one of my favorites. It's how I feel I've explored most, especially cities. Just walking around, take a map. I'm a little bit old style. Sometimes I just like it in my hand. Also, because sometimes I don't have internet or Wi-Fi in other countries. So just take a map from the hostel or the hotel you're staying at, and you just wander around and you get lost. And then you ask people, hey, do you know where this restaurant is, right? And just embrace it that way. And talk to locals. And this will come, of course, connecting to language learning, but talking to locals, that's also very important. How do they live? What is their day like? And kind of absorbing that part of the place you're at too. So this is what I mentioned before, embracing any opportunity and listening to your gut, feeling, screaming like, yes, do it, right? Because our gut a lot of times is right. If it tells you don't do it, it's unsafe, then don't go for it. Of course, like safety first. But so many times when we're put in a new, different place, a new city, a new country, you're almost starting to learn about a new version of yourself. And that is the beauty of travel. So that is your moment to try something that you wouldn't normally be exposed to, or you wouldn't normally try back home. And talking to locals, language learning. So this is the second pillar of kind of the presentation today. So travel and language are not dependent on each other. What do I mean? I mean that, of course, you can still travel. I mean, you can't learn all the languages in the world. That's a bit much. So you can still survive without knowing the local language. But if you want to travel deeper, if you want to have those connections, language is the bridge. Language is not just words. Language is culture. Language is part of the identity of people, part of the history of populations. So by learning the language, you empower yourself. And you empower yourself in your journey, and you empower yourself about learning and opening up to new cultures and getting new perspectives. So I have some tips about language learning. Again, it's hard to learn and be fluent in every language of this planet. So how can you help, and how can you get those extra connections through language in your travels? So first of all, my biggest tip, and I'm a big advocate about this, expose yourself to all 4 pillars of the language. What this means is the pillars of a language is writing, reading, listening, and speaking. And you can divide those in input, which is listening and reading, and output, which is speaking and writing. And by exposing yourself, maybe for like a week before or so, you are almost warming up your brain like a workout to that language, so that when you're there, it will not be, let's say, as shocking as it would if you just, all of a sudden you see this new alphabet in front of you, if it's Eastern language, or you see letters together that feel very weird at first. You're warming up your brain to it. And on top of it, what helps is doing a mini guide around the language. So I have actually an example in my resources. It's kind of like the main things you need. So for example, emergency, health vocabulary, and things like that. Writing it down and having it with you, whether digitally or printed out, is a way to prepare yourself to connect with people, and also to boost your confidence and feeling more at ease, because knowing the language and knowing how to react to health or safety emergencies is a way to also feel safer. And it is a great way to navigate foreign environments. So the other tip I have is, remember, you're the most critical person about yourself. You're going to feel at any point, anytime, any beginner in any language will always feel, oh my God, I sound weird. Oh my God, here, I can't write. I don't understand 100% of what it says. We are sometimes the worst to ourselves. Remember, if you try to speak in somebody else's language, that person will only have admiration for you. They'll be like, oh my God, you're trying to speak my language. If they don't, if they're there to mock you, well, that's a person you don't even want around you. Doesn't matter where you are, what nationality, that's just a bad person, bad negative vibes you don't need in life. So get rid of that. Any other normal person will always appreciate somebody approaching them in their language. And if you even speak a sentence, 2 words, they'll be like, oh my God, because the majority of the people know probably one language, maybe a second language. So don't be hard on yourself. It will feel weird, and that's just part of the process. And the other power that language will give you, especially if it's a language you want to become fluent in, let's say you're traveling Latin America, so you're also trying to learn Spanish, you can detach from the group. So when you travel, whether solo or in groups, you always tend to get together, and what puts people together is being able to communicate with each other. So most probably, if your English is your first language, you can see this almost magnet, and English speakers get together and so on. So being able to speak in a different language will give you access to the locals, will give you access to be more independent in your travels too. I've heard stories, of people who were learning Spanish while traveling in Latin America. And then they were like, okay, everybody else is going somewhere else. I want to stay here. I want to stay with a local family. I want to dive deep into this and hang out with locals. And that is one of the best memories they have of the place. Which brings me to personal growth. So there are so many different ways. I generally believe that learning a second language opens up so many doors, just because it did it for me. I am here. I've lived in different countries, not because I speak Italian. So, so definitely, being able to work in German, being able to work in Spanish, and so on, it just opened up so many opportunities for myself. So there is that part itself is a personal growth. You challenge yourself. Language learning is a long process and a long journey where it's up and downs. It's up and downs all the time. So that alone is personal growth. But not only that, you can also explore more about yourself and what you want in life by doing other things. For example, networking. Every city, and now with technology, Facebook groups and Meetup and, online travel lovers communities like the Nomadic network, all of this will give you opportunities to find ways to meet with people or go to an event and network with others and learn from their stories and be inspired by that. And then try. What do I mean by try? try new things. We go back to that, right? You're putting yourself into this new environment full of new opportunities that you may have not even thought about before. So try it, give it a try and see if you like it. Awesome. If you don't like it, guess what? Nothing is set in stone. You can change your path. You take it as a learning experience and you move on from it knowing, well, that's not for me. And I think that alone is a great growth moment. And I'm big, and lately I've been trying to do it more and more myself, even just, by being here without traveling necessarily. But every day, take 5 minutes. As while you're a traveler, if you just moved somewhere, take 5 minutes to reflect whenever during the day, and reflect on what you learned and how you felt about certain things. And take those 5 minutes, write it down if you like journaling, or just mentally take that moment for yourself so that you can turn your day into learnings, into reflections to grow from it. Talking to strangers. And why do I say strangers specifically? Putting ourselves in those uncomfortable situations, because of course, like in general, it's not, you can be really outgoing, of course, but in general, it always is a bit daunting to talk to a stranger. You're like, I don't know them. I don't know how they will react. So just putting yourself out there with strangers, talking to them, will help you, getting out of your comfort zone. And then once you have the conversation with them, trust me, you learn whatever their story. Everybody has a story. And this was actually part of the reason why I started the podcast during COVID. I was like, I miss talking to people and hearing stories that you usually get when you're traveling in, the common areas or so on. So you learn. We have so much to learn from each other, and each other's stories I find them always fascinating. So you never know. That's another way. Maybe having that one conversation with a stranger will change your perspective on something completely. And work on the mindset. And this is why, slow travel is so important, because it is an approach. It is a mindset. When you travel, when you move abroad, or when you travel in general, you're challenged. You're constantly challenged. You put yourself in uncomfortable situations. There's situations that can be difficult logistically, or just in general. You may feel lonely. That's another thing, right? So your mindset is working on the mindset means taking those difficult situations and again, turning them into a learning. Turning everything into learning is how we grow as people. And also, I would say, don't listen to those that say that like traveling or something like that is blocking your career. Because again, by making the most of every place you go to, connection wise, experience wise, you can always turn that and into skills. And these are also, a lot of it is soft skills by itself, right? Putting yourself out there so you're like more at ease talking to maybe a stranger crowd. So many soft skills that any workplace needs. And then hard skills, because maybe you are for a bit longer in a place, you can volunteer. There's so many other opportunities to explore. And that's a bit what I meant also by try. Were you always interested in, I don't know, working with animals? Volunteer in a wildlife center, or in marketing, volunteer maybe at first, and explore from there, whether you like it or not, and then see if there's any, for example, internship opportunity. There's a lot of organizations that help with that too. So I don't believe that traveling is a career blocking. I think every learning we get from traveling, being in different countries, trying different things, is actually strengthening you as an employee. And what I want, this is a little reminder, what I want you to remember is that yes, life challenges you in many ways. So sometimes we stop and we're like, why me? And we feel like it's all coming to us, and we get into this kind of box and tunnel, right? But traveling also teaches you that it's part of the journey. Those things that don't work out as planned, that's part of the journey. And you cannot let that moment, that thing that didn't work out as planned, which happens more than we want, we cannot turn that into the final feeling and the final learning of, where we're at. It's because those difficult moments, they're not what the actual outcome is. Those are just little hops on the road, and how we go over them and how we overcome them and how we improvise after that, that is the outcome of our life. That is how we decide to turn our lives around. And you learn that. You learn that with traveling a lot. And so before talking about a bit transformational travel tips, I wanted to take this from an article I wrote, don't remember when, a while ago though. I used to wonder why traveling made me feel in a certain way. Then it all became clear. When traveling, we're present. We leave behind the worries of the past and the future. We realize we cannot change the former and cannot control the latter. Therefore, we live day by day, possibly planning tomorrow at the end of the day, if at all. We need time off. We need holidays. We need to travel to appreciate what we have and feel free. So let's design those rich transformational travel experiences. Travel could truly shape your future. And I say this because, as you've heard in my introduction, I've been moving. I've been not only backpacking, but literally moving for a while, which some people could say, oh my God, you have no roots, you have nowhere to go. And I'm like, I have a home in a lot of places now, actually, and met great people. So it shapes your future. Look at me. I'm in Calgary, Alberta. I would have never thought about this 6 months ago, to be honest, but definitely not when I was a little 10-year-old kid. I wanted to approach travel differently in order for traveling to be truly transformational. So traveling is a lot about where, of course, we have our favorite destinations, but I would like you to take it a step further and ask yourself why. Ask yourself, okay, if I go to here, why do I want to go here? What do I want to take away with me as a person and as part of my personal journey from going to this destination? What experiences, what learnings do I want? And then again, it is very important to create the right space to grow. So make time every day for something you enjoy. And this is a takeaway from travel, but it doesn't mean that we cannot apply it in our daily lives back home. So make time every day for something you enjoy, because life is one. Surround yourself with people who help you move in life. And this is something that I think is probably one of my biggest learnings, going from teenager to into my 20s. And now I'm getting a bit older than that, but not the point. It's finding those people. When we travel, we kind of notice we hang out with people who are like, also, yes, let's do these and let's go. And right, because we can choose, because we're like, okay, well, I'm not really vibing, so I guess I'm going this other direction after you try speaking to somebody, right? You have that freedom, but take that home with you and eliminate those people and those presences that are not adding to your day-to-day, to your life, to your growth, and to your movement, that they're blocking you instead of letting you be and letting you grow to the next chapter. So I always say this, the life you want to experience does not have to stay a dream. There are ways to make your dream an action, right? And here's a quote that connects to it. Whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. And I think this is a very powerful quote that again goes back to the fact that yes, we're all dreamers. I'm a dreamer myself, but I like to turn those dreams into action. And I know, just as I did, and as other people I know did, you can too. You can choose to take action on it. So what happens when you connect slow travel, mindset approach, we connect language learning to, fully and deeply connect with the people, and then personal growth, and always trying to turn everything into a learning, into helping shaping our future. You go from feeling stuck to freedom. You learn to decide to spend your energy in what adds a smile to your day. And you learn to decide who is going to be surrounding you every day. And you learn that you have freedom of choice in time. It is something that we forget when we're like, oh my God, and I have the deadline, and that deadline seems to be the end of the world if you're not making it. Or, you have to, the system, the society where we're built that you have this 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that you have to do. And if you don't buy a house and have 5 children, then, that's not right. And unfortunately, that still is around. But especially through traveling and learning about other people and other ways of living, we learn that we have the freedom to choose what to do with our time and what to do with our chapters in life. Once you connect all these pieces, where to spend your energy. And that is like a very big learning by itself, because you can then connect with yourself, with others, and with nature in every place, doesn't matter where you are. And then with traveling, once you have this slow travel approach, personal growth approach, you learn to bring everywhere with you what the road has taught you. The road, it can also be by boat, I don't know, but metaphorically speaking, you bring everywhere with you what the road has taught you, what the other people you met have taught you, what other cultures have taught you, and what nature has taught you, because everywhere we go, there's people, but there's also nature. So this is how I wanted to finish. You don't just wake up and become a butterfly. Growth is a process, from Rupi Kaur. And that's what I want you to remember. So I invite you, and I hope I've inspired you today, to go, to immerse, to grow and repeat, because it is with practice that we become excellent at something. So this is my presentation. If you want, let's connect. I always, of course, my brand is called Our Connected World, so it would be weird if I didn't love to connect with people and have chats and share insights. So this is my email, my website, and my Instagram. And also you can sign up for, I forgot a Y there, but sign up for my bi-weekly newsletter to get my Slow Traveler Guide.
Wow, fantastic. That was so inspiring. I've got to say, Robin, I was just sat here listening, thinking, nodding along, thinking, yes, I love this. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I've got a couple of questions already in the tank that people have said. So thank you for that. If you had any questions and you haven't written them yet, do that whilst we're talking, and I will try and cycle through to them. So just put question and then the thing you'd like to ask Robin, and I will go for that. So let's start with one of the ones that I've written down then. Someone asked you, how would you begin the process of having this sort of lifestyle, or generating the sort of lifestyle you have got? And I think by that they mean, if you've gone down the more traditional route in the early part of your life, how would you switch that up in the middle stages of your life, or whatever point you might be at? What would you do to sort of make that change? Because it wouldn't happen overnight, would it? You wouldn't be like, right, tomorrow I'm going to be like Robin. There's got to be a process there.
Also, no, I wouldn't say be like Robin, be you, right? 100% it is. And I think that's what inspired me to do what I do now, because without noticing, I've helped, people, friends, even at first, on this kind of thing. So for example, especially my friends back in Italy, like most of them stayed in Italy and so on, but they wanted to try and do an Erasmus or have that experience abroad to see if they liked it, and then choose for themselves. Again, I think the biggest thing here is it's not about being like somebody else, or you don't have to be like digital nomad. You don't have to be moving all the time either. You can totally have a base and do the travels. I think the journey to find that out is by trial and error, right? Like anything in life. So take it step by step. If like this is, for example, your first time going solo traveling or so on, find those networks that support you doing that. There is a lot of associations that actually I collaborate with a couple of them that are for solo female travelers. And just like, the nomadic network too, you meet a lot of people to find that extra support to help you with your decision. And if it is a first time kind of situation, I always suggest take it step by step. Like I think it's personality sometimes too. Like there are impulsive people like me who are like, yep, let's go, move to Calgary, go. And luckily my boyfriend is similar, but if it's not fitting your personality and you need to plan, then do it. But I think what I always invite people to do is take that plan, make that plan. It can start with a 1 week experience. It doesn't have to be 2 months and so on. So ask yourself what feels right for you, why you want to have a specific type of travel, and then go from there.
Really interesting idea. And I like that, the idea of being very conscious about what you want from a trip and what you want from an experience, as opposed to just thinking, oh, that looks nice, and off you go. You're sort of sort of engineering it, aren't you, from the effect you want it to have. Yeah, really nice. What's the name of your short story collection? And are the stories about traveling? We've just been asked.
What's connection? What?
What's the name? You mentioned you've written a collection of short stories in the speech, but the link wasn't there. I wondered whether that's available.
Oh yeah, it is. It is announced. Yeah, it's my first self-published, I guess, book. It's 6 stories in English and Spanish, because I wanted, like, I'm a big believer about reading and reading out loud, especially. I do that with my language students a lot, because that's also how, I learned my own language. If I think about it, I remember having the little Disney cassette, and it was like, the tape, and it was like talking, and I was reading. So I wanted a book that was similar to that. And the 6 stories are based, of course, on travel and adventure, but one of them is actually based on my grandmother's stories about the Second World War in Northern Italy. So it's on Amazon. I can share the link too.
Oh,
and
please.
I think it's a great way you have the story in English and then Spanish, and it's a great way to also just check the vocabulary and so on if you're learning one of the 2 languages.
Yeah, really good idea. I like that idea, certainly. Tell us about some of the places you have been to slow travel specifically then. What destinations stand out to you?
Yeah, I think in general, I've always kind of more slow travel. Like I've never liked to rush things too much. So Spain was a big backpacking trip. That was a while back now. I was in between my bachelor and my master. So, kind of like, it's like, I don't want to just jump into something. So I took a gap year, and that was my first travel of the gap year. So I stayed for a month, and I kind of did from San Sebastian, all the north coast, to Galicia, and then Madrid, and then the southern part until Barcelona. So that was beautiful. That was a great start of my gap year. And after that, I just did internships. Actually, this is what I kind of was talking about before. I didn't really know what I wanted to do after my bachelor degree, and I didn't want to jump into it. So I guess it was a bit of the, it was new. Definitely, it was a new concept to do a gap year in general at the time. And I did a bunch of internships in like television and marketing and so on. And yeah, that really helped me figure out the next step in life. And I stayed for 5 months in Germany, and then 5 months in Holland for those internships.
Wow, that's really slow travel, 5 months in each place.
Yeah, that's more like a digital nomad. But other slow travel places have been, for example, Costa Rica, which is ages ago now. I was young. And then Southeast Asia, I only did 2 countries because I didn't have much time, with a good friend of mine from university. And that was my first ever trip outside of Europe. And I was 19 or something. So yeah, we took it slow. And that's definitely one of those trips that changed, right? I was in such a different context, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I was already addicted to traveling, but now it's worse. I want to go even further. Yeah, so that's another big trip. And again, I wanted to see everything. And I think especially, people like us, travel lovers, you just want to, it's just never ending list of places to see, things to do. But taking that step back and just adding less, that's what we did. So we kind of concentrated a lot on Cambodia and Vietnam. So I missed a lot of Thailand. I only saw Bangkok. Gotta go back.
Yeah, I know that feeling as well. There's places I've been to that I've been to sort of part of, and you just think it's either rush on now, isn't it, and then miss or miss this, and whilst I'm here I want to sort of make the most of the time. So am I to sort of assume that you've traveled on your own sometimes and sometimes with friends and with people that you're sort of on placement or whatever with? Is there a mixture of solo and travel
Yeah.
with other people?
Yeah, for sure. Well, besides the Southeast Asia one, the other ones have been solo, and then since I'm in a relationship, I've been traveling as a couple travels, but we're on the same page regarding traveling. So that's why it works out well. But that's, being a solo or having had experience as a solo female traveler, that's part of the reason why I want to help solo female travelers. I know it can be daunting, particularly daunting at first. And it is important, from a safety perspective as well, to be ready for doing the journey and having the right support through associations or people you have around you.
Yeah, absolutely. That does it. How does it change your experience? I'm certain it does change your experience, but what whether you do that on your own or whether you do that with a partner or with a friend, or did you notice that the way you traveled changed?
I think that that's a great question, because I think you can definitely learn a lot about a person, right? When you travel, like there are people you may not get along as much with when they travel, because they may just have a different approach to it, or they want to see things differently. I think I've been lucky in the sense that with both my girlfriend, this friend of mine at the time for Southeast Asia, and now my current partner, we are very similar. So we want to see things, but we also don't want to rush it, and we have similar interests. And also I think both of us are open, right? So if you, I don't know, wants to see a particular museum, I would have not thought about it, but why not? So it really, for sure, there is like that compromise piece. But I think for me, it was like a very important piece, right? Like you want to be on the same wavelength when traveling, because if you're too opposite, I think it can become a bit hard, because then you're trying to compromise too much, or you're just not exactly making it the experience you wanted it to be. So there's a fine line there. So I guess I've been lucky. But yeah, of course, when you're solo traveling, I think the most different thing is just connecting with others. Sometimes when you are in a group or you are with somebody else, people are more, they don't approach it. It's funny because they're like, solo travel, you're gonna be lonely. I'm like, no, like you're traveling alone, but actually you're not lonely. Everybody who's solo traveling meets other solo travelers, or groups create. So there's definitely that. But again, I think just for personality wise, if you put yourself out there, one big thing that you learn from traveling is go and talk to the person, and be like, hey, I got a beer here, like there's so many ways. So definitely the being alone part is a big change when you travel with somebody else. But overall, I think you shouldn't compromise too much your experience itself. Like it shouldn't become a trip that you never wanted.
Yeah, I can understand that completely. Do you have things that you put in storage when you travel, or have you sort of picked up more and more stuff now over the years of traveling, and now have to sort of hire trucks and stuff to move you around?
Yeah, so I definitely left some stuff back home, in Italy, when I was traveling. But I always had my max whether backpack or my 23 kilos luggage, because I've moved a lot of countries, right? So I was staying in countries for months and months at a time, but it was always whatever the airline max was. But definitely recently, and I'm definitely more settled here in Canada. So when moving from Ontario to Alberta, it was notice that, whoa, this has been the most amount of stuff I've ever had. And to be honest, sold a lot and just brought the essentials, and then kind of rebuilding. I think this is the funny part of travel or moving. Often you do that purge part, that the spring cleaning, but you do like a big spring cleaning, and you realize sometimes like, oh, did I need this? But yeah, definitely more settled now, so I have more stuff. For example, before I never really had furniture that I would carry with me around.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, but I think storage is a great way. So for times that if you don't have a base, like a house or a temporary house, I definitely suggest, there's a lot of storage companies where you can leave your stuff for whatever, $50 a month or something. And that's a great way that you can leave your belongings somewhere while you're off for a year or so.
Yeah, good advice. That is a way around it, certainly. Okay, what helps you gather up the courage to go on one of these travels? How do you, how did you build up? I suppose we've talked about this already in terms of doing things in stages, but how do you tell people to do that? How do you tell them to have that courage to just jump for it, to actually sort of seize that and go for it?
I love this question.
It was
Again,
asked a bit crazily. Sorry, I wasn't not very direct.
Yeah, again, I think every personality is a bit different. So I speak in general. What I would say is, again, kind of choosing. I think committing, and this is kind of the funny part. So when you seek support to do something, what it does is adding accountability for reaching that goal. So our minds are very interesting. When we just say we're going to do something, and this is general, so I'm trying to be general because I think otherwise I need to go into different personality types and we don't have that time. But in general, when you commit with a person and you seek that support to reach your goal, whatever your goal is, you are adding or enhancing the percentage of possibility of reaching the goal and being successful reaching it. Because first step is just saying you're going to do it. Second step is writing it down and making something, putting it black and white for yourself. Third step is telling somebody that you do it. And now I don't remember, it's a study actually that I wished I remembered the title of, but it's a study they run at a university regarding accountability and the role accountability has in reaching, in a rate of success for reaching goals. And I think basically it goes from 25% of just, when you say, I'm gonna go there, or I'm gonna, learn a language, whatever it is, you go from 25% to 90%. So every little step where you go, you write it down, you visualize it first, and you write your goal down. It's black and white. You then make a plan to make that happen, and you get the support and the accountability to make that happen. By doing all the steps, this is how you enhance that percentage of getting to the goal. So if you tell yourself, okay, I want to go there, just by saying you're going to go there, that's not going to work. You have to write it down. You have to think of a plan, get help if you need to plan it out and remove any blocker. And then getting that accountability, somebody checking in. And I noticed this even just with my company, right? Like with Our Connected World, like at first it's like, I'll just do it, like, I enjoyed the podcast, I'm going to do it. And then I started like getting that plan together and getting the support. And then I was like, I got to do it. This has to happen, and I'm stubborn and determined, but there's certain things, especially when, again, as you said, it may feel daunting, it may feel hard at first. So as humans, we're just ready to reject. It's like, okay, no, I'm not going to do it. Right. But doing those extra steps of accountability and putting it on a mood board, whatever it is, making that, it basically brings it from concept to an abstract to reality, and it makes us more prone to reach that. And this is just in general as well.
No, I agree with that. It really does sort of cement it, doesn't it? It makes it seem a lot more tangible than just saying, I will do this one day, when I suppose it's the same as booking the flight, or booking the hostel for that first night, or whatever it might be. It just makes it realistic, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely booking the flight makes it, because you're like,
then you've got to do it. Or even setting up, putting $10 in a jar every week, or something practical. You're doing some practical thing, aren't you, to get to that goal. Yeah, 100%. I love it. We've just got a few minutes left. We're going to finish just before the hour. So if there's anyone else, if you've got another question, if there's anything else you'd like to ask here on the call, do that. I will share Robin's socials again at the end. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and click on those and follow her on all the various things. A question here: how do you deal with the naysayers and non-believers and their energy attitude, especially when it comes to your own anxieties and fears? And I suppose this could be interpreted in the way where the people say, no, you can't live the life that you are proving that you can. Or perhaps don't go to that country, it's dangerous. You know, that classic that we hear all the time in this community that people say.
Yeah. Well, I'm not telling people to go to dangerous places.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a really great point. I think it's about doing also your own research, right? We have maybe like an overwhelming amount of information nowadays with internet. And if you look just at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or something of your government, you may see it, oh, definitely don't go there. So there's some information there, but I would also add research, talk to people who have been to those places. I think that's the best source. Then do your own research. For example, Guatemala. This is funny because I have an example. I really, back in the days, and I was, again, much younger than now. It's probably 10 years ago now, but I was choosing and I was like, I want to go to Latin America in between my university years. And I was in between Guatemala and Costa Rica, but I really wanted to go to Guatemala. But of course, back then it was like, if you look at the government like website, it says it's very dangerous, which is true. Like Guatemala City, definitely as a solo female traveler, not ideal. But yet, I ended up going to Costa Rica anyway, but then I've talked to people, and Guatemala is still on my list, and I'm definitely going. But I've talked to people who've been there and had, the most amazing experiences. Again, it is about talking to people who tell you exactly, okay, look, I've been there. This is safe. This is unsafe. Talk to if you're a solo female traveler, talk to other female travelers. Again, there's a lot of associations for that, for this reason. And doing your own research, that is super important. And for the non-believers, I think we are critical enough of ourselves as it is. I think there will always be people who whether don't understand why this, but at the same time, you can bring it back to them and say the same. It's like, why is, living with this schedule the right way to live? I think it's, again, about changing our approach and our mindset to life. I think, especially in the last years with internet globalization and opening up so much about other countries, you see new perspectives. And I think, if anything, by traveling and learning about other ways of living, it makes you think if there is a one way right way to live. And I truly, based on my experience, I truly don't think there is. I think it is about shifting that mindset and deciding that this is the life that makes me happy. I feel fulfilled if I can do this, whatever that is. It can be having a house and 5 kids, but it also can be being a digital nomad. It also can be I travel every 3 months for 2 weeks. You shape it. I think it is about empowering each person to make their own decisions on how they want to live the life. So if you have somebody who's like, no, this is the one way, I personally don't think that's a person you want around you. To go back to a big travel learning, you want to surround yourself with people who help you move in life. Because no matter if you're, religious or non, there is one thing we all know, that this is the life we know, right? Whatever happens after, believers or not, we don't know. We don't have any certainty. And I think having that approach of looking at this life as this one big opportunity to have the versions of yourself that you want, create the chapters of yourself that you want, I think that will change the perspective of where we want to have our energy on and who we want to listen to.
Wow. Yeah. Well said. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Robin, this has been fantastic. I have just shared your socials again in the group. So I urge everyone to go onto your website, and there was a guide to download there, wasn't there, on your website, a slow travel guide that you're offering to people on the call today.
Yeah, for sure. And then reach out again. If people are telling you can't do it, don't. Surround yourself with people like the Nomadic Network people who show you how to do it. That's it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And talking of that, let's have a quick look at some of the events that we have got coming up. Let's see if I can do this correctly this time, that we've got coming up already, where there'll be some more experienced people like Robin telling you how you can do this travel thing, how you can make it work. In a couple of days, travel hacking, the good, the bad, and the in-between. In the 29th, the travel souvenir show and tell, and on October the 4th, a practical one, how US citizens can legally travel to Cuba. And now we're doing the in-person meetups again. I need to get to one in London. I know they do them in London. I've yet to do it, but you can see them all there. nomadicnetwork.com/events. And the book club is next week, the 28th, September the 28th. It's bring your own book this time. Brilliant, brilliant. And finally, the group tours. If you would like to travel with some like-minded people, like the people on the call today, have a look at some of the group tours that Nomadic Network offers. nomadicnetwork.com/tours. Thank you so much. This has been brilliant. You're all amazing. Robin, you're especially amazing. And I'm going to make sure I connect with you now on the Instagram and all those things. Thank you. I hope to see you again.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Luke.